Hey guys, and welcome back to another tutorial here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out any of the other videos, please go and have a look. We're starting to build up a collection now, which is awesome. Hopefully we'll do some live stuff shortly too. But today we're talking about the tempo track in Studio One. So firstly, if you can't see any of the extra tracks at the very top left here, there is this little hamburger looking icon. And if you click on that, you'll notice that now you get all the extra tracks available to us at the top. But you can also stretch the side of the arrangement here out, and now you'll notice that they all turn up at the top here. So if you use any of these a lot, it's probably a good idea to have them all open. Otherwise, you can just choose that menu there. The tempo track is very cool for a couple of reasons. But first we'll get into what is on the track itself. So firstly, the plus and minus buttons. If you're at any stage in your song across the timeline here, you can just simply add a tempo change marker right here. So you'll notice that it's set to 120. To bump it up to 121, you can simply just type it in the box next to it. You can click on anywhere in the tempo track along the timeline to create a tempo marker. And you can always right click or control click to change the tempo there. By the way, you can double click any marker, tempo marker, and they disappear as well. And that works with the minus button, obviously. So the other settings we can have here, this song in particular, I don't think will go any higher with a tempo change than about, even 130 is probably too high. So I probably wouldn't go anywhere higher than 128. So you can set a range. So 128, and I probably won't go any lower than 100 beats per minute. So therefore, as you drag down, it won't go any lower than 100, and it won't go any higher than 128. That's the tempo settings there. You can add or take away a tempo change. You can change the tempo amount and set the max and minimum. So you notice this little demo I've made here, there's some drums and a bass line that I've put with it. If you're dealing with any audio, make sure that the tempo is set to time stretch and your time stretch algorithm is on sound. So I want the intro to be a little bit more urgent or a little bit more pushed. So what I'll do is I'll click at the start and the end. So in this case, it's bar 1 and 7. And you'll notice that your cursor turns to the trim cursor at the top of the tempo track, but underneath it comes back down to the arrow. So if you just hover up over here and then hold and click, and then this I want to come in a little bit stronger at 122 beats per minute. By the way, you can hold down Shift to get finer details. So moving along, I'm going to have the chorus ramp up in tempo as well. So I'm going to have that ramp up to 124 in this case. Really does depend on the feel you're trying to go for. So 124 is going to be blatantly obvious, and I probably wouldn't do a 4 beats per minute jump, but to show you how it works, you need to hear the difference. A lot of it for me is the feel. So as a drummer, I do have a constant click at a perfect time, but I'm able to push and pull that time depending on what's going on in the song. So just like this song here, the chorus I'm going to push in and make it a little bit more rushed. Now, when we get back to the verse here, bump that up to 122. So now this verse here is a lot stronger in tempo or feel than this verse here. So we're kind of ramping up as we get to the end of the song. And this chorus here, let's just go to 124 as well. Just like that. So again, you just click on any part of the timeline here along the tempo track to change the tempo. All right, so let's give that a listen. So you can definitely tell that the tempo speeds up and slows down. And that's what humans do. So unfortunately these days everyone is so set on quantizing everything to the grid to make things perfect timing, but that's not what music is. Music sort of ebbs and flows. The tempo track is a great way of you being able to get that kind of feeling into your music so that it's not just so robotic. So what I actually want at the end of this chorus here is I want these last two bars, bars 37 and 38, I want them to slow down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add another tempo marker here on 37. And on 39 at the end here, I'm going to just drag this down all the way down to our minimum, which is 100. Okay, so the obvious thing, as you can see, is going to happen that as it moves along those two bars, the tempo, the timing will slow down. Just like in automation, you can change the way the tempo will slow down. So what I mean is, if you hover your mouse over the tempo change that we just made, you'll see this little node turns up here. You can actually pull that node down to make the line bend. So let's have a listen to how that sounds. So the next tool that you can use in the tempo track is called time scale. So the time scale tool you can use to tempo map to a piece of audio that you've brought into Studio One. What I've done in this instance though, the tempo changes we did in this little arrangement over here, bounced that down and brought that into a new track here. So that way we can kind of reverse engineer what's going on in this audio. So I'll turn the click track on so you can hear how the audio itself is not in time with the current tempo of 120. So I'll just play a little bit for you so you can feel what's going on there. So as you can hear, it's all out of time. So the 120 beats per minute is not correct on this piece of audio. Now we are cheating a little bit here because we already know from time before that we've changed that to 122. But let's just ignore that and we'll see how Studio One goes with finding the tempo on each part here. So firstly, when you're doing things like this, make sure that the tempo setting over here in the inspector is set to don't follow. So that way if we make any tempo changes, the audio won't follow along what's going on in the tempo track. We want it to do the other way around. We want the tempo track to follow the audio. The first thing you need to do is make sure that you know where the downbeat is. So for example, if the downbeat didn't start right at the start like this one does, you can find a downbeat by just simply counting along. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that there would be the downbeat. But in this instance, we know the downbeat starts at beat 1 here. So make sure that you move your audio along where it needs to have beat 1 on the first beat of the bar. So we can use the normal way of adding a tempo marker or a tempo change right here. And so we need to do that first. What I normally do when I do these is I either do them in 4 or 8 bar lots to start off with. So I would play the song through and kind of get an arrangement of, you know, where things start and stop and sound different. So obviously choruses sound different than bridges, etc., etc. What we're going to do here is we'll just count along until we hear the drums change into a drum fill, which will be going into the next section. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can hear there that it changes. So we know the next downbeat is going to be bar 7. So there it is there. So that's the first of the bar right here. Right where my playhead is there. You can see that it was 6 bars of an intro, and you can tell at the top here we're at bar 57, so there's not a great deal of timing difference here. And as we know from the tempo changes that we've done already, is that it's 122 and it's actually set at 120 at the moment. All we need to do is to use the timescale tool. You hold Command, that's on a Mac, or Control on a PC, and the icon changes. That's the timescale tool. So all we need to do is, we know that that's the first of the beat in that bar, and we need to drag it. So hold with your mouse and drag it back to the first beat here. And when you let go, you'll notice now that the tempo map is now perfectly in time with that piece of audio. So let's move along and find out where the next change is. So let's play it from here. So we can hear there that this is the first of the bar here after the drum fill. So bang, right there. So again, we find the bar that we need. In this case, it's 8 bars along. So again, zoom in so you can see. So this is the first of the bar here. So now we need to hold Command and drag to the first of that bar there. Okay, and then again, you would find the next section. So let's just do that, which I can see from the audio is about here. So there's our downbeat. And as you can see from the timeline at the top here, we're way out now, so we're a whole beat behind. We need to be on the first of the bar, 73 here. So again, hold Command or Control and then drag it back to that downbeat, which is there. Move along the audio that way in big lots, like 4 or 8 bars, sometimes even 16 if it's that blatant where the changes are, but you would just go through the whole thing. Let's just double check back to our original so we can see that it goes 122, 120 up to about 124, but this has taken it as 123.9. So let's have a look. So we're exactly where we are. So 122, 120, 124. Okay, so once you've gone through and find out where most of the tempo changes are in the song, it's going to be pretty close, but you can hear from this section that it slows down. So let's go back and find out where it starts to slow down. Okay, so we can clearly hear there it starts to slow down. You can tell from the bass guitar. So we find out the start of the bar where it's slowing down. So let's just have a look in this section here. Okay, so we can tell even by looking at the audio. So here's beat 2. You can tell here that now this audio is starting to be in front of the beat, which means it's slowing down. So we need to change the tempo. So find the start of the bar where it's slowing down. Okay, which is right here. Put a time change marker there. So then we need to slow the tempo down. So we need to go beat 2, hold Command, and then push it forward. So now the tempo is starting to slow down here, as you can see. So we need to keep going along. I'd like to use snares in this instance because it's easier to hear those beats. So you can tell here, this is where the snare hits. And so again, this is beat 4. So we need to hold and drag onto that section there. So you can see the timeline and everything comes into focus. And again, so that one there is way ahead again. Here's beat 2, hold command, stretch it out to that section, and moving right along. So let's count that so that we can get where the bars are, because that's a little bit tricky. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's beat 4. Again, beat 4 is here, so we need to drag that out to there. So 4E end. So you can see the bar here, the beat, sorry. We need to change that again to there. And if we double click this to get rid of it, we have our ramp down. So there you go, that's the tempo track. I hope this helped you out in some way. As I said before, keep an eye on the channel and there'll be more videos coming soon. See you then.